Europe faces enormous problems. First of all, there's an attack on the European Union and on NATO by the President of the United States. It's an attack. I think it's not a joke anymore, and people are not responding very well. But inside Europe all by itself, there is the problem of the EU, which has gotten very diverse, very big, which doesn't actually share the same values. Everyone talks about European values. Well, the Poles have different notions of, what European values ought to be. They're more old-fashioned, perhaps. They're more about national identity, but it's about democracy, but the idea of authoritarian democracy, of illiberal democracy, is taking hold in ways that Brussels doesn't know how to cope with. The issue of migration is simply symbolic because it prompts all these anxieties about identity and nationalism that started with 2015 and the surge of refugees, asylum seekers, and migrants. Everyone blames Merkel, but the fact is all of Europe was really complicit in shipping all these people as soon as they got into Europe to where they wanted to go, which was Germany, Austria, Sweden. And there's clearly been a backlash. So there's that they have to deal with. The euro is still a fragile currency. I mean, it looks great, but no one has been yet willing to build the institutional framework to govern it in case of a real crisis. It still is fragile. The French President Emmanuel Macron has tried, but he's been trying to deal with a Germany which is suddenly much weaker, a coalition government. We think of Germany as the bedrock of, Europe. Madame Merkel is the queen of Europe, and Germany is very divided. I mean, it took 6 months to form a coalition. The coalition is still fragile. She's much weaker. She's clearly in the last period of her rule. It could go on 1 or 2 more years, but her voice carries less. Problems of migration, of the euro, of the challenge to values coming from Central Europe, plus you have a Russia which wants to break the European Union and NATO apart, which is meddling in European politics, and you have a China that wants to break the European Union apart and trade separately with countries. And it's 16+1 thing that the Chinese are doing, and on top of that, you have an American president who's attacking the very idea of the European Union and multinational order. So there's a lot to cope with, and I'm not sure this generation in Brussels is doing a very good job at coping.